when it comes to the great mage Minas the Witch, the elf that went on a rampage in the southern lands 20 years prior to the current events in the Foundation Festival arc. There are many fan theories out there how she might still be alive and that she might even be behind the current cheating attempt on the living grimoire, the great mage Serie, the feet goddess. While many of these theories take many leaps and bounds to reach these wild conclusions, I think the most obvious evidence we should go to first, as it can relate to Minas the Witch, is the Court of the Sacred Staff. Why? I mean, this is a silhouette of an elf, right? And she's dark. Is that prejudice? Hear me out. There aren't supposed to be a lot of them. And is that Milarde? Either way, there really isn't a whole lot that we can gather just yet as to the context of Minas and her motive to rampage on the southern lands, but we do know broadly what she did do in the southern lands, how the holy symbol ties in Minas by what Frieren has explained about her holy emblem before, and in the context of what Lan explained to Yubel about these secret organizations that are meant to quell rebellions and uprisings. There are actually a lot more context clues than you may think to start building some compelling theories, but before we do, it's another day in the Frieren manga hiatus. Yes, Yamada Kanehito and Abe Tsukasa are getting stronger, healthier each and every day as we all pray for the impossible to be possible, that they will come back sooner. With Zion by their side, surely they are in good hands. However, what may cause them stress is yet another updated script of the Foundation Festival arc deliberating over an eternal life. It says, plot twist, Minas the Witch actually got yeeted watching another episode of One Punch Man Season 3. If you don't watch it, Serie, you might not get yeeted.
合格だ.
What we know about Minas the Witch is first introduced by Sister, not Sister Shadow Warrior of Guerrilla Warrior, Shrit, the mercenary, in chapter 133. Before that, Commander Reve dropped off the mission to always wasted Shrit. According to the mission, they are supposed to keep everyone else occupied so that Commander Louvre, that may include someone not yet revealed, but has to involve Lyra, and if the clairvoyance character is some other southern lander. Once all the Shadow Warriors meet up to discuss the roles over their mission, Shrit gives the holy symbol emblem to Gazelle for him to say that Commander Louvre let her borrow it. This is the Frieren theme of believing in the impossible. Just like Himo the hero put belief in Frieren against Bose the immortal. The holy symbol given Gazelle's reaction isn't a widely known symbol, but only a small minority knows of it. Remember that the hero's party, besides Frieren, doesn't even know what it is, because she has one. Only Learning before has acknowledged the significance of such a symbol. We'll get to the reaction of Frieren explaining that symbol in a bit. Shrit explains 20 years ago, Minas the Witch, who brought endless war to the southern lands and was accused of high treason, was defeated by a nameless warrior from a small remote region. Like the motif of legends in Frieren, anything that happens from long ago morphs, changes, and gets telephone gamed into oblivion. What Gazelle says here is still interesting, that rumor has it that fight was a draw. That warrior might not have been Reve. This is the difficult part about deep lore that only a handful of people would know, that Minas, Lo, and whoever else was present would know. This is what mainly sparked fan theory of Minas being alive, somehow being behind the whole plot to yeet Serie. But I would question one thing about this theory. What's the motive? A great mage that likely champions magic, helping support Commander Reve to get rid of it? It's more likely that she'll be alive to help stop him. Except, what Reve says here, that magic might just go back to the times of Mythic. What Shrit says here is interesting too. Who are the three great mages? It is Serie, Frieren, and now we know Minas is one. However, is it possible that others exist? Are they counting Frieren as one? Are there other unknown great mages like in the Court of the Sacred Staff that bears the same symbol that Frieren has? With all these questions on our mind, what we have to work with is what Shrit still confirms. Minas has disappeared for over 20 years. She continues on that what you can't imagine can't be actualized. With that holy symbol in hand once again, this is Lo, giving them belief that someone as powerful as Serie can be defeated. sense also echoes what was said about Minas in chapter 137, that she was defeated by a human warrior 20 years prior. Besides what was explicitly said in chapter 133, she doesn't quite get mentioned but shown in the last chapter before the hiatus. In chapter 147, Commander Reve, whose real name is Helt, discusses what it was like living in the Southern Lands. Helt experienced his brother getting yeeted right in front of him from a straight magical Zotrak spell. What comes next is what is the most damning. This explosion burned into his memory. That's right, this explosion is implied to be Minas the Witch's doing. She is specifically holding this diamond-shaped glowy magical object that led to a nuke. The devastation that Minas inflicted on the Southern Lands should be noted because of the gruesome nature she caused. What Helt says here is going to be crucial, like super duper crucial, like moving that damn nightmare pot away from my sleepy time crucial. It seemed the magic used for the war in the Southern Lands was no longer under the control of humans. The Court of the Sacred Staff, an elf silhouette, same emblem from Minas and Frieren. Dare I say, did the elves go dark?
不合格だ。帰れ。
Our first instincts after this line would be those pesky remnant demons. However, he specifies that demons were mostly a northern land concern because of location. Now, here's where a theory that makes the most sense given what we know right now. Minas the Witch and Frieren are great mages that hold the same holy emblem as another secret organization called the Court of the Sacred Staff. What Minas' motive and goals were are potentially related somehow here, which takes us to the introduction of said secret organization, presented by Land. What Megane explains to Yubel is surely going to come up again in the Court of the Sacred Staff, because he explains it in parallel with the Shadow Warriors. What Land seems to be implying here is that both the Shadow Warriors and the Court of the Sacred Staff are working in secrecy to help quell rebellions and maintain order. Specific units that counter mages like a Serie. One can theorize that if the Court of the Sacred Staff is similar to Shadow Warriors in how they operate, no matter if it is for the Empire or another land, they stop powerful mages and not help them. This leads me to believe that it is possible that Minas was once a part of this organization that likely saw the Southern Lands as a bunch of nations that took killing magic significantly too far. Which is why she went scorch earth. Maybe Minas and many other followers believe that humans have desecrated magic and used it too much for evil. It's actually a very similar motive to Commander Reve, which could support the fan theory that Minas the Witch could be behind it and or her supporters, if that secret organization is the Court of the Sacred Staff that wants to remove all magic. At the same time, Minas getting yeeted by Lo could also mean that she might be fighting against them. If Minas was still a part of the Court of the Sacred Staff that helps maintain order, and this was her actual mission to quell all the fighting in the Southern Lands, it would seem that the court would be an enemy of the Shadow Warriors as well. There is so much context needed that would explain why and how Minas the Witch ended up committing high treason and just blowing up towns. But one thing is clear, it has to do with the Court of the Sacred Staff. So let's talk about what exactly the Court of the Sacred Staff could be and maybe how it morphed over time. What do we know about the Continental Magic Association? They are kind of like a mage governing police force that helps maintain order and safety across the lands. Hence why Frieren and Fern needed to try to pass the first class mage exam to access certain dangerous areas. It was also Serie's prophetic dream that showed how big of an organization they are, embedded in various cities and countryside, where her hubris had to be turned upside down. We get confirmation like in the Divine Revolte arc as well that all the mages within the Continental Magic Association are stationed in various towns to help them out. It is why Serie can't just simply run away from her assassination, because her entire organization will be slaughtered, leaving many innocent people to be vulnerable from various attacks from various enemies, including demon remnants. When Frieren first brought up the holy symbol or emblem during the first class mage exam that would allow them to travel further north to get the Oreo, she talked about multiple generations of Continental Magic Association type of organizations that oversees magic. More specifically says that the organizations that govern magic change too frequently. It's a pain to keep joining new ones. Serie currently runs this modern day governing body of magic and mages. Why I brought up the Continental Magic Association is because the fact that Frieren has a holy emblem. It means she might have had to gain one from the Court of the Sacred Staff before in her past. She even says that this is the only proof I have that I'm a mage. My interpretation of this when it was first brought up in this arc is that it mimicked the current day system that allows her to freely travel to dangerous areas. This was all in the context of being allowed to get through the Northern Plateau with a first class mage. One little slight inconsistency about the holy emblem that Minas had is that on the lower half, it seems to look a bit different compared to Frieren's, which looks exactly like the Court of the Sacred Staff's emblem. Abe Tsukasa drew it kinda grainy with multiple panels, so we can't see exactly the condition of it either. However, we know that the great mages like Frieren have these holy emblems, so I'm going to assume that they are pretty much the same, given that the top part looks exactly the same as Frieren's. Another question that pops up is that Megane explained the Court of the Sacred Staff like they are a secret entity like the Shadow Warriors, with a similar goal of countering mages in order to prevent rebellions. If the Court of the Sacred Staff is in any way similar to Serie's Continental Magic Association, then it begs the question, why have they turned secret? Or did Frieren join a secret society? The timeline when the Court of the Sacred Staff became a thing can make a lot of sense in many different timelines. They could be Flamme's time ode, which would mean 1,000 years prior. During this time when Frieren's elven village got wiped out in the court depicting an elf silhouette, it could even predate that. Before humanity thrived on magic, we know that elves at least used it since mythic time. What leads me to believe that they are a significantly old organization is that Frieren, when she met Kraft the Monk, they were both surprised to see another elf that's still alive since they are pretty much extinct. You would think an elf with the same holy emblem as Frieren would remember if they are still alive or not. At the same time, I guess we need the context why they are a secret organization now. And there are logical reasons why some elves would just disappear after, almost becoming extinct. The only other confirmed elf that has been shown in the Frieren manga is Milarde. When she catfished everyone with good booze, she talks about elves spending all their time in the pursuit of something, setting up the whole catfish with a seemingly pointless end because of her past experience. At the time in Frieren's village, she's basically an immortal with no direction. At the same time, it was a huge surprise to see a flashback of an elf, but was a nice message about the pursuit of something, rather than just the end result. It echoed the sentiments of Frieren and even Denken pursuing magic being the greatest joy. However, what she says here all of a sudden becomes massively important. Tell me, Frieren, can you imagine what it feels like when you realize that the thing you pursued your whole life turns out to be completely worthless? I'm talking about myself, about what happened to me a long time ago. And that's a long time ago, even for Flamme's time. I know that the Court of the Sacred Staff just shows a silhouette of an elf with short hair, which at least matches up with Milarde's. If this organization existed a long time ago, like Serie's Continental Magic Association, it would align with whatever reason why it ended up disappearing a long time ago. In that flashback about the holy emblem, Imo specifically called it a rusty necklace, signaling how old it actually is, supported by the animation of it. Looks like crap. Although a big lesson behind the arc was that status isn't the end-all be-all compared to your actual skills, that holy emblem still means something significant to Frieren, and one that may likely tie in the great mage Minas the Witch and the Court of the Sacred Staff. This is quite the exciting short introduction to something that feels like it has immense ramifications in the Frieren story. What kind of throws me off is, how the hell does Megane know who they are then? You have all these secret organizations, but apparently all these people somehow knows about them through the grapevine. I'm pretty excited to see where the Court of the Sacred Staff, how that ties into the story. And really though, this is a fantasy story, so Dark Elves? Who's with me? Dark Elves? I'm hoping that the organization is old because it is an elf that is equivalent in some way to Louvre for the Shadow Warriors. It can explain more lore like the Unified Empire, maybe how elves were like before, and how the demons yeeted most of them off, and most importantly, the damn holy emblem as it pertains to Minas the Witch. So yeah guys, let me know what you guys think about the Court of the Sacred Staff. What do you guys think Minas's role was in the past, and if she's still alive now? How does that holy emblem, how does that tie to Frieren? So yeah guys, let me know what you guys think, and I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.